Hey everybody, it's Cherie, the Scream Queen of Halloween, and I am going to give you my recipe for my one application paper mache. People call it, paper mache clay. They can call it monster mud, I guess. I don't know. They call it all kinds of different stuff, and everyone seems to have their own little recipe. So what I did is I decided to make a tutorial to show you how I make mine. And this is what I use when I don't have a lot of time and I need stuff to dry right away, because as you know, if you mess with paper mache, it is super long process. It is and just to building up the layers upon layers upon layers. So anyway, this is like a little bit of a thickness to it anyway, and it makes it, like I showed you, like rock hard. Okay, and it's pretty easy to make actually, and it's also really cheap, which is good, always good for me. Anyway, so these are the ingredients. All I use is Mod Podge, or actually this is a new thing that I just barely started using this stuff. I actually use Elmer's glue or white glue a lot. But I got this so super cheap at the Walmart. It was on clearance for like $3 for this whole entire jug. So I went ahead and got it, and it pretty much does the deed, so you're good. Whatever color latex paint that you need. I got these at Lowe's for 50 cents. See? 50 cents, because they were mess-up paints. And if you check back there a lot, they tend to have a lot of gross, weird colors, for Halloween type stuff. Sorry about that. Okay, anyways, so, yeah, you just want to check back there. They usually have a lot of gross colors because that's where they mess up the paint in the paint department at any of your hardware stores. Also, what you're going to need is a little mixing bowl and some all-purpose, basically joint compound. I like to use the creamy stuff just because it's just easier to work with for me. You can also use the dry kind, I'm assuming. I never really have. Just basic all-purpose flour. I use a spray bottle of water, and this is purely optional. You do not need it, but I choose to use it at times when I need stuff to thicken quicker or harden faster, is plaster of Paris. And I use very little of that because, the hardening time on that is so fast. It's like once it's mixed, you only have like 5 to 10 minutes to work with it. So I don't really like using a whole lot of that, and I definitely don't use it by itself. So anyways, so this is what I do. Also, you're going to notice I don't ever measure anything, only because I tend to use it on small applications and large applications, and I learned pretty quick that if you make a huge batch of this stuff, it's good for a couple of days if you keep it sealed, but it's just not, I don't know, I just like to make what I'm going to use right at that moment. So basically, I'm not going to measure anything. Basically, what you do is you just take your mixing thing. I would say probably about a third of this all-purpose, this joint compound basically is what it is. Any brand will do. I put about a third of that into my thing right here, right? Because I'm only going to use it to finish the rest of my pillar. So I don't really need all that much. Plus, as you're going to see right now, anything that you need to use joint compound on when you're doing Halloween stuff, this actually extends your joint compound. See, this is just a little pint, but it like triples it, basically, is what happens. And it does the same exact thing. Anyways, and then I just take the glue, which I had already done, and I put about a cup of that in there too. About a cup, I suppose. I don't know. I just kind of like poured it in. It's all up to your standards, like whatever thickness that you're going for. I could actually probably use a little bit more in there. Let's see. This is my first tutorial. Sorry, guys. Okay, so just pour that right up in there. Once it's a good, pretty thin, consistency. I like to be able to put it on with a paintbrush, only because, I tried doing thicker, but it's so goopy. You can't put it on with a brush. You have to do your hands, and then it's hard to get off your hands. And by the way, you guys, don't wash the stuff that you're using to make this in the sink or down anything that's going to have a drain, because it will clog your drain. It will harden in your drain, and you don't want that. It's just like when you're working with, drywall stuff or joint compound, whatever. You never wash that stuff off in the sink. Just so you guys know, so you don't try to make that mistake, because it would be awful to have your pipes harden over some joint compound monster mud stuff. Okay, so then I'm going to take this flour. I don't pour very much, what I'm trying to do is just get it to the right consistency, basically. And then what happens is the flour actually, kind of like paper mache, it gives it a harder surface. To me, that's better, because my stuff has to be sort of, rain resistant or weather resistant in general, because, it's going to be outside. So it needs to stand up. That's a really good consistency right there. Okay, and then, then what you do is you're just going to take your whatever color paints you're using, and you're just going to pour enough in there. And it doesn't need very much, actually. It really doesn't. Just so you guys know, a little bit of this paint is going to go a long way to make this the color that I want to make it. So, hold on, let me add the paint real quick. Okay, guys, so I added about that much paint. Not very much at all. Okay, and this actually goes a long way as far as, you know, changing the color of whatever you're doing. It actually saves like a whole other process of painting, especially when you're doing any kind of like concrete structure type looking buildings, or if you're going to be using, you know, anything that's going to have to be painted afterwards, you know, like any kind of paper mache projects or whatnot. This actually saves so much time. You have no idea. So once you get that all mixed up good in there, it just looks pretty good to me. Check it out. Can you see? There it is. Bam. Okay. So basically there it is. It's about this consistency right here. This is what I like to work with anyway. A little thinner than, you know, regular joint compound, but not watery in the least. Okay. Anyways, this is the point where you can, if you choose to sprinkle a little bit of plaster of Paris. I did last night in this particular pillar, so I'm going to go ahead and just to make it consistent, you know, and look at. I'm talking very, very, very little, okay, because like I said, this stuff is no joke, and it will harden fast. So yeah, okay, that's very little. I just sprinkled just barely enough. Okay, let's see. Mix that all up in there real good. And what I did generally is I let this sit for a couple of minutes while I get the paper towels ready, because I forgot to mention we are going to need paper towels. Paper towels, for me, they work the best, when it comes to, like pillars or walls, fake brick walls, whatever you want to use it for. To me, they're thicker, they're stronger than toilet paper or tissue paper or anything else. And they're also add texture to things, like, say, my pillars of mausoleums and stuff, they were never completely smooth and slick, and you know what I mean? They were textured. They were done in, you know, whatever they were done in, mortar or whatever. So, of course, they're going to have a little bit of a texture to them, and I actually prefer the texture of this as opposed to creating like a fake texture out of, you know, like any kind of other element, such as, you know, like I've used like wads of different paper, sizes paper or whatever, and trying to layer it. This actually just takes another whole process away. So I'm going to take this over to my pillar. Okay, so now I'm over at my pillar. I've got my just water in the spray bottle. I've got my Monster Mud joint compound mixture stuff, right? Paper mache stuff. And I've got my paper towels, which I don't know. This is kind of a larger application. I mean, if it was a smaller thing, I probably would have, you know, maybe shredded them bigger or smaller, but I didn't find the need for that because this is such a huge application. So I'm just going to keep them kind of in bigger chunks. I don't like to keep them completely square, though, because that's just too much of an area to cover, and you don't want them to overlap really that much. So basically, I'm going to just go ahead and start where I left off right here. See, this is just cardboard. Bam. There's my stuff, and I just kind of want to paint it on. Paint it on pretty good. You want the whole entire surface area to be covered, but not in like huge gobby thickness or anything like that. See, I'm just kind of painting it on. And the amount of the paper mache stuff that I just made will actually finish this whole entire pillar. I like to do larger sections at once. And if you're getting detailed into stuff, you can do it in smaller, you know, strokes or smaller applications on whatever you're doing. If you require more detail than this, I don't. It's a pillar, so it's not really going to be. I mean, they're pretty much normal, like every other pillar that I've ever made. So, okay, we'll start with that. Okay. If you're wondering what this newspaper is at the bottom, I kind of had a gap. So any larger gaps, I do suggest that you use the original paper mache. What I do is I just grabbed some newspaper and some white glue. You know, spread some white glue on the newspaper, stuck it on here, sprayed it with water, whatever, and let it dry just once, just to cover the big, huge gaps, because you don't want this stuff just flowing into the gaps, because when it dries, it can get a little bit heavy. So then what I do is I just kind of cover up what I just did. Check it out. With the dry pieces of my paper towel. Let's see. And you'll see how much faster this is. It's insane. Okay, how easy it is. To me, it just makes stuff so much better when things are easy and fast, because I've got 3 small children that are not patient whatsoever. So anything I do out here, I have to be ready to like jump up and go at any given time, because they like to, their boys will be boys. They like to fight or whatever. Okay, so anyway, see. Once all that stuff is all stuck up on there, you take your just water and you're going to spray it. I like to spray it and get it kind of, see how you'll notice when I'm spraying it how it starts fading in. That's what you want. That's the effect you're trying to get right there. See? And you want to make sure that you get all the whole thing kind of good and moist, but not like dripping, soaking wet. That's why I don't dip. I know a lot of people dip the paper towels or whatever they're using as the paper mache base, into the water itself. But I'm not doing that. And plus, you'll notice that paper towels, they like to come apart very easy. So you're just going to pat it down with your hand, kind of get the air bubbles out a little. Okay. And all the rest will come out with the paintbrush application, because you just have one more step and then you're good. And I'm going to tell you, this dries so fast, like it'll be done within an hour. Like it'll be dry, completely dry. Where if I needed to go on into another process, I could with it. So, anyways, so that's pretty much good. You just take your paintbrush again. This is where you just got to be a little more careful. You're just going to like meld it in. Now the whole reason for I have before used this stuff without using the paper, just like as a paint or whatever. It's kind of like the cross between a paint and like say concrete, like if you're trying to make some kind of building structure look. It does fine. Okay, but when you need something to stand up, like when you need it to be weather resistant, or you need it to be, stronger or dry harder than it would, you want to use some kind of a base in there, like a paper. My choice, like I said, was the paper towels. And it doesn't even really matter what kind, but I like these kinds, so I think they're like brawny or something. Anyways, see? And it goes on. Now, voila. Nothing else needed. No other anything. And you know what else? You can also sand this if you need to get certain chunks out. By the way, you can sand it. Like if, say, I wanted to get this big knot out right here, or like whatever. Say I wanted to get this out later on and I didn't get it when it was. See, I can go ahead and I can actually sand that if I wanted to. But I think I'm going to leave it there because it gives it a little bit of character, I think. But anyways, so that is it. That's how you do it. And then you just put this in front of a fan or whatever. You can leave it in the garage. I like to leave my stuff in the garage. It takes an hour to dry, one application, and there you go. And next thing you know, here you are. Pillars or whatever else kind of building structure you're going to be using. It doesn't matter. But yeah, one application does exactly the same thing. I would say about 5 applications of paper mache would do. So if you're running low on time and you're running low on like supplies or whatever, or you just don't have patience like I don't have patience, or you have a lot to do like I have a lot to do to get ready for Halloween, then you might want to try this application on stuff, okay? Thanks for listening. See you later.